How do you know my name?
Junior Officer Nolan. And, it's written on your face.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Arey, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the first act of ARCANE Season 2. Now, the first season is one of the most beautifully animated shows on television, and the finale left us off on one hell of a cliffhanger, so let's get into it. Now, one of the first things we notice about Season 2 is that it seems to mirror many of the same story beats as Season 1. Just like the first season opened in the aftermath of an attack, but this time, the Council of Piltover are the victims. The attack has killed Haskell, Bolbach, and Kate's mother. Two other council members, Salo and Shula, were gravely injured but survived. Mel and Jace, however, are unscathed.
I thought they were closest to the blast.
Well, the last shot in Season 1 makes it seem that way, but it also hints at how they may have survived. The gold jewelry that Mel wears is oddly specific. In the Season 1 finale, we see it's actually a full armor set that she wears underneath her clothes. Many League fans have pointed out how this resembles the work of Solari.
Who's the Solari?
Well, they're a religious group that lives in the Targon region of Runeterra, known specifically for their magic-infused golden armor. In the games, many items related to them grant some kind of shield buff. Specifically, the Locket of the Iron Solari bears a striking resemblance to a dress that she wears during a flashback in Season 1, which may indicate that she has some Solari lineage.
Yeah, but person, I thought Mel was nauseous.
I think you mean Noxian, and while yes, that's true, we don't know who her father is. It's entirely possible that Ambosa married a Solari soldier and that Mel was their child, and one of the music videos released before Season 2 seemed to back that idea up. The explosion happens off camera, but we do see Mel holding Jace in the opening scene, so it's more than likely that her armor protected them both. And then we move on to the new intro. So this one takes a more colorful approach than the rotating stone statues we saw in Season 1, but the song is still the same. The heavy use of shadow here further emphasizes the duality themes we were talking about before, and my god, I am hungry. Now, we open with a shot of Vi and Jinx back to back, just as they were in Season 1 but dressed down. This time, Jinx stands up, firing a finger gun at the camera, as opposed to simply cowering behind her sister like in the Season 1 intro.
I'm the big dog around here. Ruff, ruff.
Then next we see Echo centered in a spotlight, using his shadows to make the ticking arms of a clock. Now it's fitting since his character in League uses devices that can manipulate time. There's even a shot later in the intro that shows him rewinding time, likely for the same reason. This could also symbolize how he is running out of time. The Firelight utopia is slowly being compromised, so you know the shoe fits. We see Victor with a Phantom of the Opera-like mask, which is interesting given his League character. In the game, Victor is this masked Dr. Doom looking character with augmented body parts, so we could be seeing the beginning of that transformation this season. Next, we see Ambessa holding a rose, foreshadowing ties to the Black Rose Cabal in Episode 3. Then we see Mel with the light dividing her face, symbolizing her struggle between maintaining peace but not becoming her mother in the process. Now, as the beat drops, a few more shots give us some characters' trajectory. Jinx is shown waving a flag, showing her ascension into a political symbol. We see Kate holding her head in her hands, casting a ghoulish Sauron-like shadow, likely showing how her grief is transforming her into a bloodthirsty tyrant. After the intro, we go straight into Cassandra's funeral. Now it's beautifully animated with a very strategic use of color. Only the subjects of the frame are colored, creating a somber sense of isolation. The purple flowers in Cassandra's grave symbolize her royalty and are used in later scenes to symbolize Kate's grief that is hanging over her. After the funeral, we head to the council room, where we see Ambessa making Counselor Salo into her new puppet.
I'm a corporate puppet.
You can almost hear Ambessa's voice through Salo's when he tells the council exactly what he thinks of Zahn.
There will be no more fairy tales of peace until we scour our basement of its demons.
Now, when it starts to rain, we get this green shot of Piltover that almost makes it look like the green polluted alleys of Zahn. It's almost as if the grief they are feeling in Piltover is what hangs over Zahnites every day.
You get used to it.
As Kate sits at home, she opens condolence letters from other highborn families in Piltover. Her grief can be seen through the muted colors, including their hair, which has changed from its natural blue to a flat black. We know from the trailers that at some point, Vi will also get a darker color scheme, so this loss holds some symbolism. It could be a visual manifestation of their grief or losing themselves as a person, but either way, both of them hitting a goth phase has to mean something. Kate tries to recruit Vi into becoming an enforcer, which goes against everything Vi stands for, or rather, that she used to stand for. She said it to Kate's face in Season 1.
You enforcers are all the same, just asshole criminals in fancy uniforms. You know what?
We know from the games that she was eventually going to become an enforcer, but in this part of her story, it's a massive compromise of her character. Meanwhile, Jace has figured out a way to put Victor in some sort of hex-tech rainbow carbonite. He's dealing with a lot of survivor's guilt from the blast, especially since Victor was so close to him when the missile went went off, which makes sense if Mel shielded him with Solarian magic. And then we get yet another isolating shot of Kate, but this time it's focused less on her grief and more on revenge. The collars on the flowers around her turn from purple to black as she sets her sights on Jinx, which symbolizes the shift from the royal figure she was into something darker.
You wanted me. Here I am.
When we cut back to Vi, she's drunk on the street when the young officer Maddie Nolan informs her that Caitlin told the enforcers that she has a good heart. This not only makes Vi blush, but should also remind us of some of Vander's final words to Vi in season 1.
You've got a good heart. Don't ever lose it.
We then see a public ceremony commemorating the lost members of the Piltover Council, but it's interrupted when a squad of shimmered up Zonites drops in, led by our old friend Rennie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember her. She's got the face and,
Well, yeah, but in case some of you don't remember her, she's a former Silco ally who lost her son last season. She also wields a giant chainsaw, which is likely the Chimpunk chainsword from League. The Shimmer supersuits are also an in-game item called Turbo Chem Tanks, which gave its users increased speed in the game. Now, they put up a hell of a fight until Mbessa saves the day in some fresh new threads. Afterward, Kate is pretty shaken. Last season, she struggled to embrace the idea that Piltover and Zon can't exist side by side peacefully, and she's very quickly being pushed to do something about it. Now, as the first episode wraps up, we hear Heavy is the Crown by Linkin Park, and it plays as a montage of Piltover's leaders decide their next move. This song is the anthem for the 2024 League of Legends World Championship. It was meant to hype players up before the matches, but here, it's much more ominous, invoking a dark sense of burden that comes with authority. Caitlin interrupts the meeting as a new person, commanding absolute respect. She proposes a plan to find Jinx, dismantle Shimmer, and destroy anyone loyal to Zon, using a small strike team of Hex-Tech-powered enforcers, one of which being her newly converted girlfriend, Vi. We finish episode 1 with what feels like almost a post-credit scene. We see Singed, the man who invented Shimmer, trying to lure out a Merc Wolf. Now, in League, they're a neutral monster that players can kill to level up, but I'm pretty sure that Singed has a bigger plan beyond farming XP. That takes us to episode 2. Now, we see Jinx in the water with Silco in a scene that echoes the opening of episode 3 last season. These are the same waters that Silco baptized Jinx in when she said she needed to let go of Powder, and now it's her time to let go of him. After the intro, we see a small kid being pursued by members of the Hush Company, one of the many gangs that seized control after the power vacuum left behind by Silco. The kid has a green hat with red goggles, which is one of the first references in this episode to the character Teemo.
Okay, what's a Teemo?
Well, not a what, but a who. He's another League character with a very similar helmet. He's known for going on small adventures with wide-reaching consequences. Fitting given what we see from this little freedom fighter later. After bumping into Jinx, she takes out the goons for him, but doesn't comfort him in any way. You also gotta love how the smoke literally says pow as she pretends to shoot herself. And then we meet Smeesh, the leader of the Scrap Hackers and one of the Chem Barons, the rich crime lords who create and distribute Chemtech throughout the Undercity.
Oh, okay, what's Chemtech?
Excellent question, Doug, because the show never really explains it. Chemtech is Zon's less effective knockoff of Hex-Tech, using chemicals to power advanced machinery. It's not only the reason why their weapons glow green, but it's also the main source of the gray. Smeesh actually explains it in the next scene.
Smog trapped underground. No more, no less.
Now, this is the same chemical that Silco used in Season 1 to remind the Barons of where they came from. People who have lived in Zon for a long time have a tolerance for the gray, but many of the current Zonites grew up after ventilation systems were made, giving them less of a tolerance. This is why some of his search party need gas masks while others can just cough it off. We then turn to a high-rise in the Undercity, where Sevika is trying to mediate peace between the Chem Baroness Margot, leader of the Vikes and the Cross, the founder of the Hush Company, the same gang that was pursuing the kid from the opening scene. This meeting between the Chem Barons is a direct parallel to the Council's meeting in the episode prior. Like the Council, they too have been reduced to 3 leaders, Cross, Margot, and Smeesh.
Same, but different.
Sevika is pushing to unite the warring factions when Smeesh suggests that they broker peace by handing in Jinx.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Well, it should. It's the exact deal that Silco was about to make last season. We all know how that turned out.
Not great, Bob.
Smeesh promises her a new arm if Sevika goes through with it, but she tells her, we don't hand over our people. Clearly, she's learned from Silco's mistakes. She visits Silco's old office as she contemplates Smeesh's offer. Here, she runs into Jinx, and they end up bonding over mutual grief. This is one of the first times we see Sevika as a parallel to Vi, or rather Kate. You see, Kate was Vi's replacement for Powder. It's something that haunts Jinx throughout all of Season 1.
Yeah, dating someone to replace your sister? This isn't Game of Thrones, buddy.
Right? Either way, like Kate, Sevika is Jinx's substitute sister, and it's something that we see reinforced later in the episode. Then we are brought back to Victor, who emerges from his carbonite cocoon. The Hex Tech has fused to his skin in a way that looks like a skeleton. After Jace drapes a robe over him, he bears a striking resemblance to Charon, the ferryman of the dead, fitting for someone who just came back from the other side. Like Jace did in the episode before, Victor's survivor's guilt gets the best of him. After learning that Jace didn't destroy the Hex core, they part ways. After that, we catch up with Echo. The Firelights have started bringing in refugees from Zon, and it's filling up quick. Heimerdinger is entertaining the children with a small turret that shoots bubbles, which looks like an early prototype of the turrets his character uses in-game. Echo notices that the leaves on his treehouse are being corrupted. Now, the tree is a symbol of the Firelights. It provides food and clean air to the people they are housing. The slow decay of the tree may be one of the ticking clocks referenced by Echo's character in the intro. We then see Heimerdinger and Echo sneak their way into Jace's lab. Now, while our favorite furry friend is trying his best to be sneaky, he says,
Mobac has left the jungle.
which is another League reference. The Brambleback, aka the Red Buff, is a creature located in a part of the map that players refer to as the jungle, and when taken down, it increases your champion's damage output. The two are caught by Jace, leading to a classic awkward moment with the X.
My new pupil, Echo. Echo, my former pupil, Jace.
We cut to Victor walking the streets of Zon, and yet another scene that mirrors one from last season, specifically when Heimerdinger first explored the Undercity after he was removed from the council. He's following a set of rainbow-colored footprints. He passes by a few people praying to the goddess Janna. Now in League, Janna is a wind goddess to whom the Zonites pray to for clean air, but more on her later. Back at Jinx's hideout, we see yet another Teemo drawing inside of her arcade machine. She dismantles the boxing machine we saw back in Season 1 to build what we later learned to be Sevika's new arm. By doing this, she's essentially tearing down the machine that made her sister a legend in their childhood, and now she's using it to help Sevika regain her power. As Jinx is about to leave, she is ambushed by Caitlyn's strike team. They enter through the same broken glass window by blasting a cloud of gray that almost looks like the Hexus from Ferngully. The window they enter is the same one they entered in nearly 7 years ago, and it still hasn't been fixed, showing just how broke the Undercity is. Vi finds her after Jinx drops Clagor's goggles from Season 1. The goggles are part of Vi's original in-game design, and this seems to be when she gets them. Jinx escapes by turning on the carnival game that she used in episode 3 last season, but she's ambushed yet again by Smisha's men. This is where Sevika shows up and tries out her new toy. Her new arm works like a slot machine with different matching icons leading to different weapons. Some of these icons include a bear trap, maxing Jinx's in-game traps, and a ninja shuriken from another champion, Kennen. There's also a Teemo mushroom, which is the third Teemo reference in this episode. Towards the end of episode 2, we cut back to Victor, who's still following the holographic footprints. They lead him to an area with some kind of half-buried machine. The design looks similar to the living Hex Tech that Jace and Victor created, and judging by how many times we've seen it in trailers for Season 2, it's bound to be important. When Victor is about to get mugged by some Undercity Shimmer mutants, one of them takes off his cloak. This is the same Shimmer-addicted Zonite who helped Vi find Jinx last season, and the same one who vanned her at the last drop in the very first episode.
How about you just give Huck the rest of what you owe him, and I'll let you walk out of here in one piece.
This is when Victor shows off his new powers. He cures them and even restores their deformities. There's a lot of messianic undertones in this scene, and that looks like the beginning of an arcane cult.
Yeah, that sounds like a cult.
It's not a cult.
There are more than a few cults in League of Legends, but none that really fit what Victor is going for here. So we'll have to watch more to see what he's cooking. This takes us to the final episode of Act 1. It kicks off with Kate learning her family legacy. They were the ones who created the vents in the Undercity. Her mother says that they did this because
the people of the underground deserve to breathe.
Which is pretty ironic given the fact that her daughter is using those same tunnels to choke them. We see this same reversal in Vi, who has now officially become an enforcer. She justifies the same violence she resented in the enforcers when she was growing up. After they get word of Jinx's plans, we get some very interesting revelations from Ambessa. She's meeting with the merchant Amara, somebody who we briefly saw in Season 1.
Welcome, Amara. How's little Rohan?
Now, even though her appearance was brief, many fans suspected that she could be LeBlanc.
Who?
She's a powerful sorceress with reality-bending magic. She can appear to anyone, anywhere, and even be in many places at once. Now, she's normally depicted with pale skin and dark purple lips, just like Amara. She even has a red dot on her head where her crown would be, and her colors match up with her in-game skin. Plus, she certainly doesn't sound as old as she looks.
How can I say no to such an auspicious offer?
More importantly, LeBlanc is the leader of the Black Rose Cabal, a secret faction of dark magic users who rule Noxus like a deep state. Judging by the reveals in this scene, it looks like they still do. If Amara really is LeBlanc, then it's likely that Ambessa didn't really stab anyone here, but rather an illusion. We cut back to Vi, and this is where we really see Vi's character development from Season 1. Now, we're going to talk about this a lot in an upcoming video called Why Jinx is Right, but the TLDR is that Vi has been increasingly resistant to change, to her own detriment.
I'm not going to do it.
It cost her everything. Her friends, her father figure, Jinx, everything, and she's finally realizing it. She's beginning to accept it, but it's a lot at once, so what does she do? She begs the person closest to her to not change.
If it has changed, promise me you won't change.
Kate returning Vi's speech with a kiss feels sweet, but just like how Vi was blind to the changes in her sister, she doesn't realize that Kate has already changed. It's something she's punished for later in the episode. After that, we cut to Salo, who seems to be getting some shimmer-lace tattoos from Vestayan to heal his legs.
A veterinarian person, you promised we would never go to a veterinarian.
No, Doug, calm down. A Vestayan. They are half-man, half-animal hybrids, typically with excellent hearing, which is why she starts packing up before Ambessa even opens the door. It's also why she's such a reliable mole for Mel. We then cut back to Jace and Echo, where Jace explains the concept of wild runes. In League lore, runes are powerful glyphs that shape the universe, kind of like the Infinity Stones from the MCU. Jace explains that Hextech can focus arcane power, but it also exists in its natural form as wild runes. These wild runes leave fingerprints on the natural world, which may explain the rainbow of footprints that were leading Victor. They realize that Echo's tree is being corrupted by the Hextech failsafes that Jace built deep underground, something that Jace did to keep the city safe in case something went wrong. This also shows how little he truly cares for the city beneath him. Then we're back with Vi and Kate as they finally find Jinx. So when Vi calls her Jinx, she mentions that Vi
Got the name right.
calling back to the Season 1 finale when she asked which chair she should sit in. Jinx then says,
Trapped underground, air running thin.
But then wispy wind woman wafts to their rescue.
Now this is the same goddess that we saw painted on the walls in the last episode. She follows that up with,
The kind of crap people get up to when you choke them out.
which is fitting. The stories of the Wind Goddess saving the Undercity sound a lot like the missionary work that Kate's mother was doing, but now her daughter, the Kiraman legacy, is actively hunting the people of Zon. The stories were meant to give the Zonites hope, but it was false hope. Vi says,
I'm done blaming myself for your mistakes. Done pretending you're my sister. You're not.
which is a big moment for her. She's finally accepting that Powder will never be Jinx and forgives herself for her part in that. Kate then fires at a reflection of Jinx. Now this shot is reminiscent of her ultimate move in the game, and it hits Jinx's reflection right between the eyes, likely a reference to her passive character ability, Headshot. Sevika joins the fight, and we get another gorgeous animated fight sequence. Now, the duality themes we talked about are present once again, as this fight between Vi and Jinx is set side by side alongside Sevika and Kate's. Sister versus sister, replacement versus replacement.
Same, but different.
We also see scenes of Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger discovering the trippy potential of Hextech woven into their fight. The reaction they're witnessing is having some kind of multicolor glitching effect on Hextech weaponry in Jinx's fight, showing how the Hex core is connected to all Hextech devices. The fight ends with Jinx losing her middle finger, something that we saw evidenced by her robot finger in the promos. Now, just as Vi has Jinx pinned down, the Teemo Hat Kid runs up holding Vi at gunpoint. He looks like he's about to pull the trigger, but Jinx stops him. And this shows how Jinx isn't nearly as crazy as she looks.
You're crazy. I'm not.
She sees herself in this kid and recognizes him trying to fight back, just like she did when Vi sidelined her in Season 1, and she refuses to let him make the same mistake. Vi starts to see this too and stops Caitlyn out of guilt, something that's definitely going to put their new relationship on the rocks. Before anyone can react, Sevika reveals Jinx's plan. She reverses the vents and shoots the Grey back into the skies of Piltover, placing powder bombs in the vents to create these eruptions of color all over Piltover, a scene that we saw in the trailers for Season 2. We've also seen this scene again in the trailers, but it's painted on the city walls with Jinx standing above the clouds, almost as if she's being worshipped. So while this may seem like acts of terror, it's possible the people of Piltover will see it differently down the line. Then, after Mel gets abducted by the Black Rose, we start to see Ambessa's plan come together. She's baiting Salo and the rest of Piltover into a war with Zon. She was the one behind the memorial attacks.
It's you.
She endorses Ms. Itchy Trigger Finger to become general, and Caitlyn plays right into her hand. As the last episode comes to a close, we finally see what Singed has been working on. He sits underneath a large furry Frankenstein, one that League of Legends players will instantly recognize as Warwick. In League lore, he's a monster who hunts in the gray alleys of Zaun and is driven mad by blood. Now in the game, we know that Warwick was once a man, but no one really knows who he was. A few lines of dialogue confirmed that he was the one who taught Vi to punch, and he remembers the cries of a little girl, assumed to be Jinx. Fans have been theorizing for a while now that ARCANE is going to confirm Warwick's original human form to be Vander. It makes sense given the fact that they literally call Vander
Hound of the Underground
in the first episode. And that's where Act 1 leaves us. But what did you guys think about these first 3 episodes? What do you expect to see in Act 2? Any details that we missed? Big shout out to the writer of this video, Dodd Sides. You can find his social links below, and Ethan Eng for his valuable contributions. And you can let me know what you think down in the comments, or you can at me on X, Threads, or BluSky at Ryan Arey. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Arey.